The old A3 was a phenomenal gateway Audi, and the new one looks to uphold that title.
If you enjoy fun, detailed car content without fluff, consider subscribing and hitting the bell for notifications.
My first impressions on this new body style weren't exactly great. However, after driving it some more, I think this is actually one of Audi's most competitive products. And for 2023, after last year's redesign, we see a few notable changes. First, they dropped the Prestige trim. So we're left with two main choices: Premium, which is what I got here, or Premium Plus. Thankfully for 2023, they will have LED headlights and daytime running lights as standard. We also see a few tweaks to the interior, and oddly enough, the availability of adaptive cruise as a after-the-fact standalone option on the premium trim. Now, there are a few packages available for the A3, including the Black Optics package, which is what I have here. It adds obviously dark accents, but also more aggressive wheels and the sport suspension, which lowers it just a teeny bit.
The A3 comes with rain-sensing windshield wipers. Just like other Audis, this has integrated fog lights, but that comes in the front and the rear. And if you're looking for a clearly transparent way to buy a car, check out Royal on the Eastside in Bloomington, Indiana. I'd like to thank them for helping make this video possible. The staff there are knowledgeable and they never charge over MSRP on any of their new inventory.
You would think on a luxury car with its sport appearance package, it would have absurd wheels, but thankfully we have 18s. And if you don't opt for Black Optics, you'll just have some plain looking 17-inch alloy wheels, which is something I can welcome. But I am disappointed to see that you have to step up to the premium with the convenience package in order to get proximity unlock and lock. Without it, you'll just have push button start. Now, looks are all subjective, but I personally like that they've added more character here with sharper lines. However, I think I still prefer the previous design. It was a little bit more elegant, but I still think they did a good job here. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. I actually find this to be a well-designed, attractive, and practical cabin. For starters, I appreciate that Audi has not contributed to Volkswagen's capacitive madness. They've retained, switches and buttons for the HVAC control and drive select. You do have a 10.1-inch touchscreen here, standard, and it has a good resolution, pretty deep blacks, reasonable response time. It's traditional Audi stuff, and it comes with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And I like the way that it's incorporated into this design with an almost two-tier looking dash. And it's driver oriented, and Audi does a great job of breaking up the sea of black with what feels like plastic but is finished nicely. And you also have just a kind of cool cockpit layout with the vents sitting right here above where your hands rest, and the construction of everything still feels very solid. It's not going to have the material quality of more expensive Audis. You still definitely have a big dependency on cheaper plastics, and even where there is soft touch materials, it doesn't feel very exuberant. When it comes to comfort too, these seats are actually nice and supportive. There's this traditional Audi firm feel, but they're not too aggressive for me. I'm 6'3". I have just enough space here for my head, and of course I can lower the seat even more if I want. And you'll have lumbar adjustments standard as well on the driver and passenger side. If I were to nitpick, I would say maybe they could have added longer seat bottoms or some kind of extendable cushion, along with some padding for where your knees may rest if you're a taller person. Now, there were a couple additions for 2023, like these armrests. They now have stitching on them. You can also get the agate wood on the Premium Plus model. Premium Plus buyers will now also get an interior lighting plus. It's ambient lighting.
And lastly, the Premium with Convenience package adds a wireless charger for 23.
And when it comes to features, this thing is actually fairly stacked at the base level. Outside of the things I've already mentioned, you have a sunroof that's been generously labeled as panoramic, Audi's virtual cockpit, which can actually be enlarged to the 12.3-inch version if you get the Premium Plus with the technology package. But the base model still packs heated front seats, tri-zone automatic climate control technically, I'll get to that in a second, and of course leather seats. The stock speaker system in the A3 offers enough power to please most people and also comes off crisp, but if you want to improve upon this, you can get the Bang & Olufsen system on the Premium Plus with the tech.
While the Plus does include all of the convenience package features, it does not have a heated steering wheel or head-up display.
Now, there are some odd bits to the A3, including this little Audi badge here, which I believe is where the Quattro badge would go if this had all-wheel drive. And they just chosen to off-center the Audi logo here. It really makes you think something was supposed to be there. And they also got rid of the volume knob in favor of a slider, which I guess is clicky, but in order to change the volume, it seems like you're trying to pleasure the car. Audi also got rid of the traditional shifter,
but then refused to make a better use of the space around it with more features or storage. I don't hate the nub, but there doesn't seem to be a benefit for the driver. At least they left room for cubbies around the cabin. A drawback to most compact luxury sedans is the back seat, and the A3 doesn't fully break tradition back there,
but it's not a complete loss. Again, I am 6'3", and the front seat is set to a comfortable, maybe not excessive position, and I could sit back here if I needed to. It seems better than the previous car, and you also have good amenities like standard rear seat vents, and again, that tri-zone climate control, which uses a kind of funny little slider there at the bottom, and you'll have charging ports back here too. And again, this is the base trim. Yes, if I try to have good posture, I'll end up giving my neck scoliosis, but it really could work for someone who is maybe 5'10", 5'9", and they would be pretty comfortable with the amount of support and amenities back here. Plus, and this goes for up front as well, you have some really nice door handles. The trunk of the Audi A3 is respectable. It's a tall space. They could definitely improve the entry point, but when you combine the size with the 40-20-40 split back seat, this becomes a fairly practical little sedan. While Audi definitely improved the interior of the A3, when it comes to the driving dynamics, it wasn't all a step forward. Powering the A3 is Audi's venerable 2-liter turbocharged inline-4. For all trims and drivetrains, it's going to make 201 horsepower, 221 pound-feet of torque. And this now has a 48-volt mild hybrid system attached to it, which isn't really doing any drivetrain work, more so allowing for better auto stop-start, and it can even like coast to a stop. So far, it really hasn't caused any jerkiness or anything, and the gas mileage ratings have really jumped, especially when you look at the all-wheel drive variant, which you would kind of expect, because this thing also makes less horsepower and torque than it did in the past. Now, this is going to be hooked up to a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. It's tuned extremely well, kind of reminding me of the GTI powertrain, just with a little bit less zip. The shifts are, of course, very, very fast. Even if I just leave it in its sport mode, reaction time is reasonably quick. But what I like most about it is its dual personality. Put it into the regular drive mode, and this thing shifts buttery smooth, even holding up well at low speeds.
And while it's not overly inclined to downshift, the transmission doesn't lug the engine and makes building speed a breeze.
And as I mentioned, all-wheel drive is optional, and that is a Haldex system. I found that to work very well in the past. It is primarily front-wheel drive, but is very proactive. It's sending power to the back if it thinks that you may need it, which makes it feel confident.
With a conservative 201 ponies, the A3 has enough power to where all-wheel drive would be nice to have, but far from necessary for hard acceleration. If you're wondering, it does have launch control. Audi quotes 6.3 seconds with all-wheel drive to 60, 6.6 with front drive. Let's see how that feels in the real world.
And it appears that Audi was pretty accurate. We got 0 to 60 in 6.6 seconds, and really that feels fast enough. And I kind of backed off of it there to limit wheel spin, so I'm sure it could probably be a little bit quicker too.
While the old 2-wheel drive model was a little slower, the new Quattros are about 7/10 slower to 60 than the last gen, but it still feels eager on the road, unlike the A440.
I think this move actually makes a lot of sense because Audi does offer the S3, so there's really not a huge reason for this thing to be a hot rod. Around corners, this is surprisingly fun for a variety of reasons. I have paddle shifters here that do a good job of translating my thoughts into the transmission. We also have good steering. Now, it's not like overly quick, but it feels very precise. It's weighted nicely. I have a great idea of what the car is doing. And here with the sport suspension, the body roll is well kept. And I think that I would honestly recommend going with this setup if you plan on flinging this thing through any back roads in your future. And I almost want to even say that Audi's pumping a little bit of feedback here through the steering.
It's also devoid of vagueness on center. Combine that with the A3's small footprint and it feels nimble, though the steering does not offer the same level of feedback and quickness as its close relative, the Golf GTI. The visibility builds upon the tossability of the A3.
This thing, especially up front, has a low belt line and kind of a low dashboard too. So it's just one of the most approachable luxury cars to drive, and that aspect makes it feel like it was from a couple decades ago, but in a good way. Now, on an imperfect road here, with the sport suspension, the A3 will certainly communicate its road surface through your butt. Though to call it uncomfortable would be an overstatement, and hitting these imperfections mid-corner, the fully independent suspension here, well-tuned suspension at that, keeps this very buttoned down, and it leaves me very confident.
Maybe this isn't the best choice if you live around roads with craters for potholes, but this deals with smaller imperfections well, and the non-sport suspension models should make it a smidge more forgiving.
The brake pedal feel is firm, yet you can still limo stop quite easily. Bringing this thing up to highway speed is a smooth process, and here right around 65 miles per hour, we are 1800 RPMs. In terms of noise, I think this has a good amount of insulation. Wind noise and tire noise are both pronounced, but by no means offensive.
And if you're looking for a low maintenance partner, the previous gen A3, which this car shares many basic components with, was largely problem-free, with its most common issue being an airbag sensor recall that took forever to replace. The powertrain was mostly robust, but some suffered leaky water pumps, fuel system issues, and on the first model year car's oil consumption from bad piston rings. While it is far too early to come to any conclusions, there's not any consistent issues to report on with the new generation, but there are still recalls regarding the airbags and safety system. If you highly prioritize Lexus reliability, the A3 might not live up to your standards in the long run, and the mild hybrid does add some complexity. However, history suggests relative to luxury compacts, the A3 should be pretty dependable. The Audi also gets phenomenal gas mileage, even with all-wheel drive. Plus, it's rated on regular fuel, a distinct advantage over its competitors.
The driver assist features here are kind of odd. So you will have autonomous braking and lane departure prevention as standard. Lane assist, adaptive cruise will come with the Premium Plus package. But as I said, for 2023 at least, you will have the ability to opt for adaptive cruise as a standalone feature. So all of them have like the controls for adaptive cruise. But if you try to use them, the car tells you you're too poor. And I think that is absolutely hilarious, though definitely not unprecedented. It's like the car is telling you, I theoretically could make your life easier. I am in complete capability of doing so, I just don't want to. Anyway, I do know quite a few people who buy cars and actually don't care about having those features, so I guess in that case, Audi won't make you pay for it if you don't want it. As I said earlier, I wasn't expecting to love this thing for a couple of reasons. Mainly, I was worried that the powertrain would not only lose juice, but also response. But that's just not the case. We have a torque-rich, yet eager, smooth, and fuel-efficient powertrain here.
It's also more engaging to drive than I was anticipating. It's comfortable, and the interior keeps things interesting and has a great feature set for a reasonable price. I've been disappointed by some automotive trends lately. Occasionally, vehicles get redesigned and laden with convoluted infotainment and interior controls, swanky looking but cheap materials, mild hybrid tech that barely helps mileage, more derivative designs, and so on. Before before interacting with it, I thought the A3 would fall victim to some of these and lose its attainable yet authentic Audi feel. I was wrong. It does lose a dash of the quirkiness and speed of the last car, but it adds a better back seat, better tech, and what felt like an improved driving experience in most regards. The A3 is the cheapest Audi you can buy, and it still more than deserves the brand name. If you're looking for an upscale compact, you'd be doing yourself a disservice to not consider one. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then whack that like button to help me crush the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe and hit the bell for more. And thank you to my loyal patrons. I'll catch you in the next one.